in the movies, when there's an
Right.
emergency scene, the emergency crews come out like a fire, put the fire out, they figure out the cause pretty quickly for the movie.
That's right. But in real life, it's a completely different situation. KHQA's Lauren Kalil takes you behind the scenes to show you why sometimes the cause of a fire goes up in smoke.
You do your best with the experience and training that you have and use your other resources to find the cause.
After the flames are out, the firefighters may be done, but the investigation just begins. And pinpointing a cause isn't always as easy as you think, especially when you're fighting against the clock with what firefighters call flashover.
Flashover is the point in the room when material is on fire and the temperature reaches a high enough degree that everything in the room flashes over at one time, which the gases in the room get to a high enough temperature, like 1,500 to 2,000 degrees, so the entire room is one ball of fire.
Flashover typically takes between 3 to 4 minutes in an average-sized room like this one. Now, of course, that does depend on the materials inside the room, but you can just imagine how quickly that is. And to give you a better idea, by the time this story is done, flashover will have happened in a room.
But before anyone can begin to put the fire out, the Quincy Fire Department has to abide by National Fire Protection Association policy.
We have to have someone on the outside for every 2 guys to go inside, so it's a 2 in and 2 out rule. So if there's no one inside, we actually have to wait until another truck arrives before we can send manpower into the fire to put it out.
Once they are able to go into the fire, they look for the point of origin.
Where the fire's at in the house, what is involved, and we want to preserve the evidence, whatever the case may be, as much as possible so the investigators can have a better advantage as far as where it started and what the cause may have been.
But a lot of times it's not obvious how the fire started. Sometimes there are multiple probable causes, so it can be difficult to know definitely what started the fire.
A lot of times when you have a fire, the fire is just so intense that anything that may have caused it or started the fire may have been burned up in the fire itself. Other times we can do our origin where the fire started, and in that location there could be appliances or so forth that we believe started the fire, but without being electrical engineers and having electrical forensics look at it, we can't actually say that that may have started the fire.
In order to have a forensic team investigate, the insurance company would be responsible to pay for them to come. So not being able to determine the cause of a fire sometimes comes down to lack of money and resources. The process alone to investigate a fire could take as little as 5 minutes, but as long as months. Another problem area the Tri-States face when trying to determine the cause of a fire is being able to get there quickly.
The rural areas where the fire departments are volunteer, they may take longer to get there, and they do their best to put out the fire. Sometimes it's to the point where they can't go in because there's so much of the structure that's consumed by fire.
Now I'm stopping the clock just before 3.5 minutes, and that means if this room was on fire, it would be completely engulfed in flames, and that only makes it that much more difficult for investigators to determine a cause. Lauren Kalil, KHQA News, Quincy.
Now, in the past 6 months, there have been 4 undetermined fires in Quincy alone, but that doesn't stop fire departments from investigating and trying to eventually pinpoint a cause.
I know, a very difficult job.
Yes, and I know it was kind of mentioned there in the thing, but I've done some fire training for past stories, and they talk about everything that catches fire these days. Furniture, clothing's made with such synthetic material that it's toxic smoke that it gets off, and that's why it's so important, if there is a fire in your house, get low. Get on the ground
Stop,
and scoot.
Drop, and roll.
Yep.
And then, of course, you want to stay below and make sure you feel the doors, too. And I always stress this when I do weather talks, have a plan.
Have a plan.
Have a plan for any emergency that you may have.